say anything you might regret, Alex, when we broadcast it to Wake County next week. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Alex doesn't have regrets.
Alex
I don't think he does, but I just want to
I'm not his enabler now. Don't get me in trouble.
All right, let's get started. Here we go. You guys can't hear me again.
Yeah, we can.
Another week of Talking Press. You guys ready to go?
Let's go.
Ready.
Let's do it.
What was it like, Coach Mitchell, Coach Grew, week one, finally being out on the court? What was that like?
It was exciting. I was definitely, the girls were ready. The fans were ready. I mean, the 25 fans we had. It was exciting. It was definitely different. We took a 4-minute mass timeouts and, we played and the girls couldn't breathe, but they kept going and pushing through. And we're glad to see it look somewhat normal.
What about you, Coach Grew?
It definitely was different. Being there for the girls' game and then not having access to locker rooms. And then when get there early enough to, mentally get in the right frame of mind and then have to leave the gym and then come back in the gym and do warm-ups. It definitely, it's a challenge because it's out of our routine, and it's something I've been doing a long time. So I like my routines and our processes, but hey, we got a chance to play. We'd like to see a different result. We lost by 1 on a last second.
Yeah, I told you to have a 2-0 week. You had a 1-1 week.
Yeah, we were 1 point away. I mean, we didn't shoot ball well, and that's the other thing you're going to see. I mean, we've been having to practice with other players because we're in the midst of volleyball, so I don't think we've been on our home court much. So it definitely, it's a challenge. But again, at the end of the day, you get to play, and that's what it's about for these kids to have an experience.
Yeah, Coach Lewis, for me, having the NFHS streaming thing has been kind of crazy. I feel like a college coach because I can switch from game to game to game to game. What's it like for you as a recruiting guru and doing what you do, trying to follow these things on streaming versus going out to so many games as you have in the past?
Well, it's been quite helpful. The main thing is, to watch it. I would encourage, I know Christy spoke on this in the past, but I would encourage all the coaches at the high school level to make sure their rosters are updated into the system. So basically when watching a game, if they don't have live audio, that we can follow along and know who the players are. That's the most important thing for college coaches. I can go on the Max Prep and watch the two teams that are playing and print off the roster and follow along and know who the players are. But if coaches at the high school level doesn't do that, it's sort of for naught because a lot of the college coaches aren't going to know who they're watching.
Yeah, I think it's more important than ever this year for coaches to fill out the Max Preps roster and fill out the Max Preps games. I think it's important any year, but I think it's really important this year. And remember, if a team doesn't play you because of COVID, you can't count that as a win, Coach Mitchell.
Nope, you can't.
I see some people doing that already. It's like, oh, we won by forfeit. No, you didn't. That doesn't count. All right, we're going to go into the zone and find out what's going on with girls basketball. No Randall this week, but we're going to have Alex, Gary, and Coach Mitchell tell us all the hot scoops. So here we go.
And here we are on In the Zone following the first week of games in this 2021, exclusively 2021 NCHSA basketball season. And in the zone, Gary Richmond's always in the zone. And my goodness, his Hickory Ridge girls, he and our head coach Jupiter Wilson's Hickory Ridge girls began in the zone this week. You want to talk about kicking off this season in style? Hickory Ridge with its upset win over Independence. I'm not sure if I'd call it an upset because, like I said, any Gary Richmond team or any team with which Gary works is in the zone. So, all right, Gary, I'll talk to us a little bit, obviously from a number 2 chair now, but it gives you a different perspective on things. Got the job done in style. Take us through.
Well, it was great to start off the season with a win. I'm happy for Coach Wilson to get a first big game under his belt, and for the team to see that we have a system and a culture that we're trying to put in place, and if they buy in, they can be successful long term. Which they have. And as far as the game this week against Independence, they're very good. They're a talented club. They're very athletic out on the perimeter, very skillful out on the perimeter, and then they're big inside. I thought, speaking on behalf of our staff, which also includes Raven Dean and Darren Shepard. Speaking on behalf of our team, I think us scheduling Vance for a scrimmage kind of prepared us to be in the spotlight. Even though we didn't beat Vance when we scrimmaged them, we were very competitive with them, and that gave our girls a sense of confidence going into the Independence game. They weren't, overwhelmed that, hey, we're playing against the team that's number 2 and a team that has 2 Division I signees, and they were ready to play. So I think the keys to our victory were, one, even though we were smaller at every position on the court, they definitely had a size advantage on the perimeter, and especially in the post, is the rebounding was even. They didn't out rebound us, so that was important. We were able to get out and transition and get some easy baskets, so we didn't have to play against a set defense the whole game where their size was a factor. And every coach will tell you, some nights the shots fall, some nights they don't. And for Independence, they shot 1 of 21 from the 3-point area. So naturally, that's in our favor that they didn't shoot the ball well. I would like to think we had something to do with it, but at every level, somebody's always saying it's a make or miss league. Well, that's at every level of basketball. You got to make shots, and you got to keep your opponent from making shots. And so they didn't shoot the ball that well. But I think the biggest factor in that game is, even though they had, 2 D1 players, the best player on the court was Kennedy Calhoun, who is our point guard. She's 5'5". She signed with Longwood. But the competitor in her, the leadership in her, she controlled the pace of the game. When we're going to play fast, when we're going to slow it down, when we're going to speed it up. She had 19 points. I forget how many assists and steals, but she controlled the game for us. And I think that was the biggest factor. Even though, you had 2 kids on the other team that are much more renowned, she was the best player on the court that night.
Well, speaking of elite players, let's go to Coach Mitchell. All right, we all know Jessica Timmons can get the job done, but still, with a later start to the season, bringing a player, however talented, into the mix like that, first game out, that takes some time. But with only 13 games left, it's not panic time, is it? Or what's your take on just that whole dynamic with this sprint?
I definitely don't think it's time to panic, but just like I tell my girls every day, that you have to look at the season and approach the season as a sense of urgency. The season is small. We have 14 games. The playoff brackets are smaller. There's only 32 teams going for each division this year, for a total of 128 teams will make the state playoffs this year versus 240 in years past. So out of almost 430 high schools across the state, that's only a quarter of the schools actually making the state playoffs. So you got to look at this as a sense of urgency, because one game can really determine whether or not you get there. And it would be a shame for a really good team, which there's going to be lots of really good teams that don't make state playoffs this year, just based on the numbers and how we're doing things this year with the state. But it's definitely a sense of urgency. Now it's time to refocus and figure it out, because there's not going to be, many opportunities to have games like that.
Gary, just like Christy just said, every game is a big game, night in and night out. So let's talk about big games this week. I like this very astute observations you gave us on the Hickory Ridge win, and things you can see from that number 2 chair, which I know is a little different, but that perspective you brought, having been in the 1 and 2 chairs, was very, very good. Every game's a big game. So on to the next big game. Providence at Cannon on Tuesday night. I mean, once again, right out the gate, are we playing for a league title?
You got to be ready to go. Providence Day has gotten off to a great start, and part of that has to do with their culture. They expect to win, and that means a lot, even at the high school level. We talk about it at football at places like Mallet Creek and Vance, and when you have a program where the kids expect to win, and when they're shocked when they lose, you're at the top. So in terms of Providence Day, I think they're undefeated going into this game.
I think they're 13-1.
Oh, they've lost one.
I think so.
They're doing it exceptionally well. So, I think the pressure is on Cannon to take down Providence Day. Now, I see it's at Cannon, so home court, even though home court doesn't matter as much during this COVID season, but it's a big game for Cannon.
Chris, you want to follow up on that home court statement Gary just made?
The home court advantage?
Is it mitigated by COVID?
Well, a little bit. I mean, you of course you get to play where you practice every day, shoot on the rims that you have every day, shoot with the game ball that you practice with. But as far as fans are concerned, there's really no home court advantage, because you have 25 people in the stands. And, in our 2 games this week, we were at home both games, and we had our 25 parents on our side. But, on the Ardrey Kell side and on the Olympic side, you have their boys team, or, their girls team during the boys game. So there's still a little bit of noise in the gym, but it's definitely different.
Gary, the Mustangs are coming on Friday, so you got to follow up with you. Once again, every game's a big game, and you got to answer the bell. Independence, that's gone now. So refocus and answer the bell. What are you looking for out of Hickory Ridge this week?
Well, first we gotta take care of Rocky River. We don't want to look ahead and slip up against Rocky River. So we'll treat Rocky River like the next big thing, and then when we get to Myers Park, I think Christy would agree with me on this. The best girls coach in Mecklenburg County history is Barbara Nelson, and she's the head coach at Myers Park. And she's going to have them ready to play. They're going to change defenses on you a lot, and you got to be prepared. They're going to be well coached. They're going to be disciplined. You can't count on them making mistakes. You have to execute what you do well on defense and offense. So it'll be a big game. Fortunately for us, is at home. If there's any type of home court advantage, we need to take advantage of it. If we could go in this first half of the season and be a game up on Myers Park and Independence, that would be a great thing. But I worry about Myers Park more than I did about Independence, just because of Barbara Nelson.
Christy, any other games? Any other key things we should watch for this week?
Yeah, I actually put down 4 games, and you've already talked about 2 of them. But Monday, Hickory at Freedom, I think is going to be a good game. Tuesday, South Meck goes to Providence. Right now we're 2-0. Providence is 1-0. Providence is conference champions the last 2 years, and they've got Nyla McGill coming back. They play really strong all the time, so that's going to be a big game for us. And you've mentioned Providence Day at Cannon and Myers Park at Hickory Ridge. Those are my other 2 big games this week.
To wrap up this week, and I know we're all very concerned by what has become a growing trend, not just in basketball, but across high school athletics. We're seeing an evolution in decreasing levels of women's sports participation. And like I said, that's across all athletics. I think it's notable Green Central High School in the eastern part of the state canceled its girls basketball season earlier this week. Now, granted, a 2A school, so we're dealing with a smaller pool of student athletes. But, I mean, just this whole concept of declining participation in women's basketball and across women's athletics, are we talking specialization? I mean, what do you see as contributing factors, and how is that changing the game? You want to start us, Christy?
Well, I definitely have seen in years past a decline in girls' participation in sports, but this year especially. We have girls that have played basketball for the last couple of years, even through middle school, that decided this year they're not going to play, either because of COVID, because their parents don't want to be around that environment, or because of the transportation issue. So with schools being completely remote right now, not all parents have the luxury to be able to get off of work or provide transportation to their kids to come to practice at 3:30 in the afternoon. So I think that's COVID is definitely playing a big role. In our league alone, 3 of our teams don't have a JV team, don't have JV programs, and 1 didn't have a varsity team. So our JVs right now, we're scrambling. We played Audrey Kell back-to-back last week just so our JV girls could have enough games throughout the season, missing potentially 6 games during the season without those JV programs. So I've seen it in the years past, just as a steady decline. And I'm not sure if it's girls playing other sports, whether it's volleyball, just looking at basketball. I know that some girls that I'm like, oh, good gosh, you're 6'1", aren't you playing basketball? Nope, I'm strictly a volleyball player. Or just kids that are working, their transportation issues, there's other issues going on. And athletics is during this time, during the COVID time, is really hard for all athletes, but, especially the ones that a lot of times your JV girls programs are just girls that are developmental. You're trying to build something in them. It's not that you're getting freshmen in. Most of the time, your freshmen that are really, really strong are going straight to varsity. And the kids that you're left with on JV, you're really developing them, hoping that by the time they're a junior, then they can make varsity and they can contribute.
Gary, you want to take that?
Well, I think, like Christy said, specialization. I've looked in the Hickory Ridge, gym prior to our practice and seen the volleyball team, and the volleyball team is bigger than the basketball team. They have more kids on the JV and varsity, and they have taller kids than we have on the basketball team. So I think volleyball has really cut into basketball and the idea of specialization, because we only have 1 kid from the volleyball team that's crossed over to basketball. Okay. So we're talking about almost 30 girls that are playing volleyball, that are athletic, that have the size to play basketball, and only 1 of them is playing basketball. The other thing that I think maybe is cutting into girls basketball is the fact that AAU or travel ball, if kids aren't playing AAU or travel ball by the time they are, say, 10 years old, they're falling behind. So by the time they get to high school, if you haven't been playing basketball, at a lower level where you not just school ball in middle school, but AAU or travel, you're falling behind. And so the kids that play middle school, they don't come out for high school because they have fallen behind so far, not having that year-round basketball of playing travel or AAU, so they just drop out, So that's where we lose our numbers in basketball. Kids that feel like, oh, I'm already behind because I don't play summer ball, or they're playing volleyball. So I think that's what's cut into girls basketball.
Well, as Gary said, unfortunately, a lot of student athletes have decided that one's got to go, and unfortunately, it's basketball that's being the one that's cut out. We don't like that at all, but hopefully we can change that in the future. But in the meantime, we're going to move right on to what we know that in the next segment, one's got to go. And welcome back once again with this superstar panel right here. Here we go once again, like Sesame Street. 3 are doing the same thing, and one of us doesn't belong. The one in the upper right quadrant, we all know is the one who doesn't belong with these all-stars right here. But as we all know, one's got to go. You know, this first one really hurts right here. This really hurts. But let's just go ahead and get started here. Beards, goatees, or clean shaven? One's got to go. Christy, which one's going?
So easy, clean shaven. And I should be the only one on this panel that really matters right now because it's the women's opinion, right?
And that's why you went first. That's why you went first. So we actually could end this question right here because we got the voice that matters on this issue, and she has spoken. But Jason, you want to go for it?
Well, this one, I'd say what you got to give the producers credit because they're stepping their game up. These are a little more loaded this year, or not this year, this week. But man, I don't know, Christy. I can't really agree with that because I mean, what would the Yankees do? They wouldn't even be able to play. So I'm going to say this one's hard. I'm going to go with clean shaven. They can't go. It's got to stay. And now we got 2 hairs. So I'm going to go with beard's got to go. We'll keep the goatees.
Jerry?
I'm going to go with clean shaven. I didn't even get facial hair until I was about 22 years old. And kind of afraid to cut it because it might not come back. When I got married, then my wife decided which one was going to go. It was either I think I like to see you in a beard, or I like the goatee better, or I like the beard. And she fluctuates. You know, when I tell her I'm on the way to the barber shop, you know, she'll make suggestions. And I'm at the age I'm just happy my hair hadn't fallen out. That's what I'm more concerned with, the hair on my head than the hair on my face.
Gary, you're a smart man.
Alex, before you get there now, one more thing, Gary. Come on now. We're up in age, but see, if I go clean shaven, you can't see all the gray. So that's another advantage, guys. Just throw that plug out there for Alex before he goes.
I'd like to point out for the record that if I remember correctly, that in the 2003 state final and in the 2008 state final, that both distinguished state finalist coaches here on the panel had some semblance of a mild goatee, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I did.
I still have it. So obviously the goatee has to stay.
Yes.
The goatee has to stay. It's a proven winner, as evidenced by this panel right here. So the goatee is going to stay. And as the one opinion on this panel that matters already has said that clean shaven has to go, I think it was. So goatees are a proven winner. The opinion on this panel that really matters says clean shaven has to go. So I'm not tampering with that. There we go. A proven winner and the opinion here that matters. And there you have it. So moving right along. All right. And we've all seen this, whether as coaches or as journalists, we all know that particular dad or that particular mom, or don't let everyone's favorite aunt or uncle coming into town to see their niece or nephew play, who's up in the stands. That dad, that mom, or that relative who comes once or twice a year, whose presence you know can be felt. And obviously we'll have to deal with it as much this year. Who's got to go? Gary, you want to start us?
That dad. That dad. You know, especially that dad that wants to sit on the front row of the bleachers and coach his kid. There's been many a game I was like, where I've had to tell a kid, okay, you need to make a decision. Are you going to play for, you know, Vance, well, whoever the school is I was coaching at the time, or are you going to play for your dad? Because if you're going to play for your dad, you go on over there right now and sit with your dad, you know. And I've had emails and phone calls from dads, and It's that dad. Me and some dads have gone at it, and I ain't backing down because it's my team. So, dad got to understand she got one coach when she puts on my jersey, and it's me. Okay. So it's that dad. Moms, I haven't had a problem with moms, but that dad, that's the one that's got to go.
Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a lot of those issues. I do see them, and it's funny because Coach Richmond nailed it. The out of town relatives, they're leaving. They're not. They're going to be at that game anyway, and I'm pretty immune to that. Usually, my assistants are the one to have the rabbit ears. I don't hear anything because I'm so focused on the game. They'll say, "Did you see?" No, I said, "No, man." I said, "Did you see that dude mix the box out?" And they go, "No." I said, "Well, I saw the mixed box out. And you heard the dad." I said, "So." And so, out of town relative, yeah, have a good one. Go check us out streaming now. Go check that website out. You can watch us there and yell all you want to the TV. The moms, I've never seen a player look at the mom and try to get instruction. I've had a couple of dads, and we same thing with Coach Richmond. I never even got that far because I just usually take the kid out and I usually separate them. I leave a chair because it's happened so infrequently. I leave a chair from the rest of the team. Like I say, now you got a good view. You can get all the instructions you want. They can tell you how to sit. They can tell you how to lean. They can give you all kinds of instructions you want now. But honestly, that stuff. Those players usually transfer because they don't have any control, And if they want to play, like you said, for them, go play for them. So, but again, I've seen it last year against us, up in the stands, looking up in the stands, and pouting about not getting the ball. And I'm telling my guys, let's go. As soon as he gets the ball, he's going to chuck it up. So everybody get ready to rebound because he's shooting it. So see you, Dad.
And I'll go ahead and affirm for the record. Before, once again, the opinion on this panel that really matters is about to speak up. That it is not an option during certain JV basketball games this year. I think it's 3 times we figured it out. No, a certain mom is going to be there. And you just have to deal with that. Mm-hmm. She's going to be there watching her son, and she should be there watching her son. Because of the sacrifices she's making to coach her team. So she should get to watch her son. So that's going to happen. So everybody can just move past that. So
I'm not that mom.
Exactly. But
I'm
now,
not that mom. I don't say a word during the JV games.
Exactly. But now that we've established, I think it's 3 times this year, that Christy Mitchell is going to be there watching her son play. Everybody can move on from that. we got that clear. So who's got to go, Christy?
I've been very fortunate as well and haven't really had to deal with this situation very often, or at least not lately. All 3 of them really have to go because it really hurts the kid more than anything, because the kid really needs to be listening to my voice. And if they're hearing their dad's voice or their mom's voice or their aunt's voice or whoever else, and they're listening to them, that's going to be the easiest way to be sitting beside of me on the bench. And then she can hear me all night long because she's right beside of me. So I think that the parents really need to realize that it really hurts the kid when you're coaching from the stands. It's one thing to clap and be loud and cheer, but it's something else to actually be coaching and yell and shoot it or drive the ball or whatever else they're yelling from the stands. I've told my kids before that your mom or your dad can coach you all the way to the game. They can coach you when you get in the car on the way home. They can coach you at midnight. They can coach you at 6 a.m. They can coach you all the time they want to, but from 6 o'clock until 7:30, then I'm your coach, and they can't coach you during game time. And so I say, I know this isn't an option, but all of them have to go for the benefit of the kid.
I'll round this out by saying that my experiences as a coach and athletics administrator, and what I've seen as a journalist, and I've been pretty fortunate, like all of you, that usually one of the parents, even if that dad or that mom starts to cross the line too much, usually it's balanced by the other parent. And you can get to the other parent and say, all right, let's calm down. Can you help me with that? And usually the other parent balances it out. So it generally works itself out. Now, in a worst case scenario, a relative can stay home as far as I'm concerned. And if it comes down to that, that relative can go, because obviously we have the longer term day in and day out relationship with the parent. And we've been fortunate enough, hopefully we can work to find that balance with one or the other and get to where we need to be. But I think we've all been very, very fortunate. So that's good. All right, seafood time. Good food. All right, Gary, you start us off. Crab legs, shrimp, lobster.
I love them all, but if one's got to go, it's the crab legs, because that's too much work. I mean, you gotta snap them, you got to get them out the shell. You know, you need a tool sometimes to get them out. Whereas the shrimp, you know, it could be peel and eat, or it could be already peeled. In fact, I'm cooking shrimp for dinner today. But anyway, the crab legs got to go. Love lobster. That's very simple. Just pull it out the tail, start eating. So I'm gonna say the crab legs because it's too much work.
What time are we coming for dinner, Gary?
I'm not announcing.
Jason?
Well, I mean, I think we've all seen Forrest Gump, and I know that one's got to stay, and that's Bubba Gump shrimp, because there's just so many things you can do with shrimp.
Yes.
Lobster, I mean, you think about lobster, and you got the lobster tail, and it's a big piece of meat. So it's a little bit of work, like Gary said. He nailed it. Crab legs, I mean, sometimes you get that big crab leg, and you're like, okay, this is going to be worth it. It's going to be a big piece of meat, and then you get it out, and it's real stringy, and you're like, what? It's like an eighth of the size of the leg. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then by the time you get done with that, you got to put them in the microwave to warm them back up, to stick them in the warm butter.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I got to go with Gary. He's right this time. Crab legs got to go, but they are all good. They're all good.
I disagree. Lobster's got to go. Shrimp and crab legs are my favorite. What do you tell your kids? Do you want something that's easy all the time, or you want to work for something? I mean, I don't mind sitting
After a
there.
hard day's work, I want something easy at dinner.
If I'm eating crab legs, my oldest son will be sitting right there with me, and we might take 30 or 45 minutes longer to eat than my husband and my youngest son, but we will enjoy every minute of it. Crab legs are my favorite, so lobster's got to go.
Michael?
I'm gonna be like the outliner here. Shrimp has to go. Yeah, shrimp has to go. I can eat crab legs and lobster any day, all day. Shrimp, I have to crave it, and it's really rare I want shrimp. So shrimp has to go.
All right, we're talking food here. So before we go to Gary and Micah, I got to chime in on this one right here and say that with no shrimp and lobster, we can't have seafood bisque. So I think we know which one has to go. And the crab legs reminds me of the first time I went to a Louisiana crawfish boil. I was there with a good friend of mine, a lovely lady from Louisiana, and she had to show me how to make sure extract the meat from the crawfish. I spent more time extracting the meat than I did eating. And how much in each bite? It was good. Crab legs are gone. That reminds me of my first crawfish boil. Bye-bye, crab legs. And bye-bye to this segment as we go to one-on-one with Micah. Gary, take it away.
Well, first of all, and I told Micah this, she doesn't take coaching well, because I told her 30 minutes ago to get rid of that sweatshirt. You know, everybody knows my love of the Cowboys, but they don't know my hatred of the Steelers. And I would think somebody that I've known for over 20 years would take my advice and get rid of that shirt. You know, they got a good matchup tonight, Micah. They got a good matchup. The Browns, half the coaching staff is out. It's their first time. I was hoping the Steelers would go one and done so they can come sit on the couch with us Cowboy fans. But I think y'all might pull one out tonight against the Browns. I think the Browns are just content with making the playoffs for the first time in a couple of decades.
Yes.
So, but I'm still pulling for the Browns tonight against your Steelers. That would bring me great joy. I would be.
You can't support the Steelers. You can't. The Browns, really?
It's not that I like the Browns. It's just that I hate the Steelers.
I know.
I hate the Steelers like I hate Duke. And, I'm a Tar Heel, so, they're equivalent. Just whichever one is the more successful at the time is the one I hate the most. And so, but we're going to get away from football for a little while. We got all day to watch football. But who'd you talk to this week?
All right, Coach Richmond. So I spoke with Joshua Beadle, Cardinal Newman High School. It's located in South Carolina. He's a 6'3" guard. He signed with Clemson. He's a top 25 player nationally. He's a top 5 player in South Carolina. He's very athletic. What I witnessed when he was working out with Chris Middles is that he has a great quickness to him. He's very athletic, and he has advanced skill sets that can definitely be hard to defend. He's a 3-level scorer, so he can score anywhere on the court. And I was just really impressed with his game and learning about his story and why he wanted to attend Clemson and everything. So I got to interview Joshua Beadle.
All right, Langston, let's take a look at this kid.
Hey everybody, this is Micah Drakeford here with Joshua Beadle, class of 2021. How are you doing today? I'm doing good. So just tell watchers about you. What's your basketball journey?
I've been playing basketball all my life. Just a simple basketball journey. Lefty kid, grew up playing with his sisters, and that's what pretty much influenced me to play basketball. And I've just been playing ever since.
Now you're recognized as a top player naturally, and how is that being considered like in the top all basketball players in the United States?
I mean, it's a big deal, but I don't really pay attention to it. Really just stay out the mix. But it just shows that I've been working, and the work is going to keep progressing.
Definitely. And what are you most excited for your last season in high school?
Just to show improvements that I made on my game in the past few years.
If you could play one-on-one against any basketball player, dead or alive, who would you play?
Probably Chris Paul.
Chris Paul? Is that your favorite player?
No, it's like my favorite player is Lou Williams.
Okay, Lou Williams. And do you play like Lou?
I tried.
You try? And what's your game day playlist like?
It's a big variety. It doesn't matter how I'm feeling that day.
All right, man. Good luck this season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, Michael, that's outstanding. Playing Chris Paul, if you play Chris Paul, you better protect your groin area if you want to have a future. But looks like he's going to be a big contributor to Clemson's success. What you know about this kid, Rick?
Well, I think she hit the nail on the head. The one thing about him is he's a very good shooter from the perimeter. The lefty has touch. He has range. He's very athletic. The thing that he's underrated, he's a very good defender as well. More importantly, as you could tell from the interview, he's a very humble, high academic young man that really does things the right way on and off the court.
All right, let's send it to the boys insiders. See what's going on in boys basketball this week.
All right, Coach Lewis, get us started here. Certainly some big games Combine Academy and Word of God in Raleigh. What should we be looking for?
Well, before we get started, I think I'm going to have to grow a goatee, because if I don't, I might be on the one's got to go next week. The game
the guru never will go.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. The game against Combine and Word of God is going to be a tremendous game. They played earlier in the year. They played back in November 20th, and they played at Combine. And that game went right down to the wire. Combine eventually won 64-60. Since then, Word of God's been playing extremely well. And right before Christmas, they took IMG, who's nationally ranked, right down to the wire. They did end up losing, but they showed what they're capable of. I think for them, it's a battle for them to develop that chemistry, because they picked up Jai Smith early in the basketball season, and he's one of the top players in the country, and probably in consideration for the top player in the state of North Carolina for his particular class. On the other hand, Jeff McGinnis has always relished the underdog role. He likes to be the me versus everyone mentality. So I'm sure he's going to take Combine into Word of God and say, hey, we're the underdog. And he likes that role. He relishes that role quite a bit. I think the game down there is going to be a tremendous game. It's going to be a toss-up. And, I have no idea who's going to win, because it's just going to be a matter of who's hitting the shots and who's not. But it's two high-level games and two high-level teams, and they got a lot of talent on the floor.
All right, let's stay among the independent schools here. Covenant Day on the Charlotte Christian here. The Charlotte Christian, which has some very young talent, as we know, and took Carmel Christian to a buzzer beater. And Carmel had to win it at the buzzer. So another opportunity for Charlotte Christian here. You don't see any reason whatsoever that Charlotte Christian could be in a situation where they're, even on their home court, distracted by what happened last week or anything else, or what kind of distraction can Covenant Day create for Christian in this matchup?
Well, yesterday I watched the game on the NFHS network, and I was watching, Charlotte Christian versus Greensboro Day. And it's not easy playing Greensboro Day at Greensboro Day, even without the fans. But, they lost a very close game. They end up losing by 2 points. Charlotte Christian is really, really good. They're very well coached. Bryce Cash has been tremendous for them. I think for Covenant, of course, they have Aiden Holloway. He's the type of player that can carry a team against pretty much anyone. That being said, I do think that game being at home, I do look for Charlotte Christian to bounce back. They've had 2 tough losses, one to Carmel and also to Greensboro Day, 2 of the best teams in the state and the private school level. So I would imagine that Charlotte Christian will bounce back against Covenant Day.
Absolutely. I do agree with that. Certainly not the time to be distracted on any night this season. Cannot afford that whatsoever. Jason, huge games this week. For the battle for the northern part of the county, always a big deal when Cornelius and Huntersville get together with these 2 thriving metropolises. That's on Friday. And once again, we're not going to look ahead at all, but that's always a great matchup right here. What you will be looking for from the Huskies, and what do you see from the Vikings?
Man, as you know, you can't take a week off. We're 1 point away from perfection. We had a opening night loss by 1 point at Hopewell, and then Wednesday they moved to Wednesday because of the volleyball playoffs. We've got Lake Norman, and Lake Norman lost to West Charlotte by 1. I mean, honestly, there's no nights off in the league. North Mech is going to be big. They had an opening win night, I think by about 40 against Mooresville. And then they had a game with Charlotte. So, you're looking at, I would really put Lake Norman in there, the 5 teams to really contest for that championship. I think they're all right there. And Vance had a convincing win against Mallard Creek. So, we'll have to shoot the ball better. I think somebody had said they shot Independence shot 1 for something. We shot 3 for 20. from the 3-point line on opening night, but worse was 11 for 23 from the free throw line. So, I think people had talked about the home court advantage being negated by the lack of fans. I would disagree 100%. I'll tell you an example why. 11 for 23 we go on Tuesday. On Friday we go 15 for 17 at the free throw line. So on our home court. So, that's a huge disparity. Same guy shooting. So it wasn't like, we had guys that shoot a poor percentage being fouled, in an inordinate amount of times on Tuesday versus Friday. But that home court advantage and that feel, I think, is maybe more important than, that energy you get from the crowd. So, North is North, defending champs for 3-4 years running. Went to the state title game last year, and, we're just going to hope to stay in the game. But we got our hands full, Wednesday night at Lake Norman, and they haven't won a game yet, and they've been knocking on the door, so it's going to be tough. West Charlotte Vance is going to be interesting. I think that's going to, what we're doing right now is we're going to compare, who's played who, and we're going to be looking at how they did against them because we don't have that preseason conference. Usually we've done that. Usually we've seen them. We got our matchups, kind of how we want to play them. Maybe a couple wrinkles we can throw in there. But, it's going to be, like I think we said earlier, I think it's going to come down to who makes shots. And if you're making some shots, I think that you're going to have a good chance of winning on a night. I think you're going to see some upsets because Team A is not making shots, whether that's on the road or at home. And I would say that's going to be on the road. So it'll be interesting. I think we're going to see what you guys would say on the outside looking in a little bit, head scratchers. But that West Charlotte Vance game after last week, North Mech versus West Charlotte, West Charlotte had the lead there a good 3/4 of that game. It's a toss-up. So I think at the end you're going to look at who makes shots, throw out experience, throw out all these other things. I think it's who's going to make shots.
I would agree with you, Coach. I think Lake Norman's going to be the wild card in the IMAC this year because they're, as we said before, they don't have any Division I prospects, a lot of D2, D3 guys. But as we said before, the sum's greater than the parts. But they're a very scrappy team. They play well together. They have that chemistry, and they could have easily beaten West Charlotte earlier. And also, I want to say thank you to Coach Groove for letting me come out this past week, last week, to watch him in open gym because with the COVID thing, a lot of times we're not allowed to go out and watch, the games in person. Sometimes we can. But I want to say something about Coach Groove's practice, if you don't mind. And, I sat there, watching the practice, and the thing that really impressed me more than anything else, and there was two things. And I've always had a saying is my number one rule for recruiting is listen with your eyes. And I sat there and watched Coach Groove talk to his players as a group. And when I did so, every single player gave him eye contact. They weren't looking down at his shoes. They weren't looking at the ceilings. They were giving them eye contact. That little thing right there made a big impression on me. And then the other thing, too, was they were doing a lot of transition drills, suicide sprints, touching the foul line, half court, the other foul line, the baseline. And I kid you not, the one thing I watched every single time is every kid touched the line. There was no shortcuts. None. And I talked to Coach Groove about it, and he had a great line. He said, line and time. And it's some of those simple things as far as what we do is sort of, from the sidelines as recruiting, trying to evaluate kids. You pay attention to the little things. And I was so impressed with that.
I can agree with that completely. And I also like an observation that Coach Groove made in his West Charlotte Vance analysis. He said, throw experience out the window. Everyone can pay attention to that game. The youth on both sides, the talented youth on both sides of the equation in that game, just like Coach Groove reminded us, will be very, very exciting to watch. And that'll be an opportunity for them to grow up very quickly. Obviously, very young, but then throw the pandemic in, being in a situation without fans. So getting in the habit of, we don't have to play off the energy. We're going to play off of what happened on the previous play and how we make it better. And let's see how those young kids respond to those details. So that's going to be very, very exciting to see. So let's hit on a couple of other things quickly here. I'm going to Coach Lewis here. Very unique situation right here. And I was thinking with the transfer of Jashim Felton from Westminster Catawba to Northside Christian. And as I was preparing for this, I thought back to it's been about 18 years now, in January, when Rashawn Terry transferred from Glenn High School on a Tuesday. And that Friday, he was playing for Reynolds in the biggest game of the year versus West Forsyth, who had a decent guard named Chris Paul back then. I mean, literally like a 2-day window. This is a step above that. We're talking a matter of less than a week. A kid transfers. Now, Rashawn Terry it was a different school, but it was the biggest game of the year. So now we have Jashim Felton transferring to a different school and within a week playing against his previous school. Comment on that and then talk to us about the dynamic of the game.
Well, I think what we're seeing across the board, whether it's travel ball, high school, at the collegiate level, transfer is just a thing of the norm today. Unfortunately, I think that the transfer was probably done over the Christmas holiday break. There was a few games that Felton didn't play with Northside Christian. So they're in the same conference. It's a tough situation, tough dynamics, but unfortunately, it's just the nature that we're in the business we're living in today. On the flip side, you look at the transfer market, it's going from public to private to public, and also private to private. MJ Collins last year played for Northside Christian. Of course, he transferred to Westminster Catawba in the off season. So there's a lot of really unique dynamics going on there. Now, earlier in the year, Northside Christian beat Westminster 59-52 at Westminster. So you add Felton to the mix at Northside, and Northside is loaded now. You got Wesley Tubbs and Glenn Hubbard. That game should really fall into Northside, and also it's going to make Northside Christian one of the favorites to win the state championship at their level in the NCISAA. But I think what we're seeing is becoming the norm at every level.
Jason, you want to chime in on that? I mean, you've seen it.
I think it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. It's a disgrace. It goes back to what you talked about before. What are we teaching kids? What's the purpose here? It's almost like it's travel ball, but it's not travel ball. There's a reason there's a season. There's a reason there's eligibility. There's a reason there's standards. There's a reason there's a North Carolina High School Athletic Association that you got to follow rules. And I think that, I know that there's been, reports of, private school players, disbanding from Lake Norman Christian and going to other places. They better look at the rules in the CMS, because you can't just play a certain amount of games and then come in and jump in. There's standards. So, I mean, I don't understand it. I don't know how you can play for one team on Friday and then transfer over the weekend and go play for another team. You wouldn't do that in my program. You're not going to come out. And here's why. I'm not going to tell the kid that had been my starting two guard all year long and all summer long we've gone to team camp, other than this year. Now, this year is a lot different, obviously, of that. That being said, but and he comes in and all of a sudden tell him, "Oh man, sorry, this guy just moved in." Now, listen, I get life experience and jobs, and somebody may come in and take your job one day when they do a better job, but that's not. I'm working for you Tuesday. On Friday, he tells you, "See you later." You're on the bench. That doesn't work that way in real life. In real life, you get a report and says, "Hey, look at this right here. Your productivity is down. We need you to increase your productivity." All right, that's a real life experience. And then next year, a kid that's a sophomore that wants to move up to JV challenges you. That's a real life experience. Those are what we're supposed to be teaching these kids. Not the going gets tough, let me leave. I think a lot of these programs that we've never heard of, that are instantaneous successes because they have a collection of kids from all around the area, or even outside of the states. That's not a program. That's a travel ball team. There's no loyalty. There's no commitment. There's no caring. They don't care about this. They care about this. And again, look, to each his own. There are people that if I say you're not coming here, they're going to go somewhere else. They'll probably go somewhere else in our league, but I'll sleep fine. And my kids will know that I have loyalty to them, and I'll get loyalty back in return. That's how I feel about it.
Gary, you've seen it in women's basketball. You've seen it in football. So you have a female perspective and a male perspective.
Yeah, I do. First, in football, when I was assistant coach at Vance, we had a wide receiver, ended up being a D1 prospect, and we were playing 7-on-7 in the summer against another school. I'm not going to call any names, but at the end of one of our Wednesday night sessions, the opposing coach told my wide receiver, if you don't make the playoffs at Vance, come on over and join us. Okay. So we get into the season, and I heard this with my own ears. This is not hearsay. We get into the season. We're in a big game. The kid plays for us. He scores 3 touchdowns. So it wasn't a matter that he wasn't getting the ball or anything, but we lost the game and we were eliminated from playoff perspective. And that Monday, he transferred to the school where the coach invited him to play. And he ended up winning the state championship for that school. And Vicki Hamilton, who used to be the system AD, she put in a rule. She said, we're not going to do this anymore. So she made it that you couldn't do that in CMS. Now, I don't know if the state of North Carolina has a rule that supersedes this, but she tried to put a stop to something like this happening. And then the following season in basketball, I had a player playing for me, starter, Division I prospect. And Sylvia Hatchell came to the school, came to my classroom to visit with one of my players from my Vance basketball team. And I probably had about 4 college players on that team, but she was only there to see one. So that evening at practice, one of the girls said, Coach, we saw Sylvia Hatchell at school today. Who was she here to see? And I told him, I was honest with him. I said, she was here to ask about one player on my team, not all of y'all who are college material, just one. This kid went home, told her dad, Coach Hatchell ain't recruiting me at Vance. So he pulled her out of Vance the next day and sent her to a private school. Now she's starting for me. Their college coach is interested in her, but her dad didn't think the right college coach was it. And I told her dad, I said, I can't tell Sylvia Hatchell who to recruit. She's interested in this one kid. I can't help she's not interested in all my kids, but he didn't want to hear it. She's not getting any looks at Vance. Well, I had 15 girls while I was at Vance get basketball scholarships.
Coach Richmond, can I ask you a question, Coach Richmond? Did Coach Hatchell recruit her then because she transferred to a private school?
No,
he didn't go there. He didn't go there to recruit her. That's crazy. I can't believe that.
Yeah, and I told parents, I don't work for the colleges. I can tell them who I have when they call. I can reach out, but they don't pay me. CMS is paying me. So, I will give them as much exposure as I can, but I can't tell Sylvia Hatchell or any other college coach who to recruit. That's their job. I can just make the kids accessible, let their parents know that this college is interested, but he pulled her out and she did get a D1 scholarship, but it wasn't to Carolina.
Well, I think the important thing that we all, for which we all can be grateful, is that the young lady got an opportunity to continue her education for free. But the prevailing lesson, as Coach Richmond said, is that nobody on this panel or no coach anywhere works for these schools.
And like Rick said, it becomes, jumping around, because here's the funny thing. She transferred in college.
Yeah.
So she got used to it. Her parents got used to it. If they didn't get what they wanted, even in college, start transferring again. And she's a good kid, and everything. But that I think that was on the parents.
Well, like I said earlier, it's becoming the norm rather than the exception, and that's the sad thing.
And I don't know. I'm grateful for everything that I've accomplished education wise, but neither my undergraduate degree nor either of my 2 master's degrees were completely for free. So these kids who get free educations and want to pass up on free educations for I don't get it. I never will. But let's keep this going here. But let's go to coach versus coach here. We'll let Gary take it away. We want to begin with what happened over at Lake Norman Christian. But Gary, take it away. Let's go, coach v. coach.
All right. Well, as Alex said, the big story this week in high school basketball is Lake Norman Christian coach Mason Padgett stepped down, and we hear it was some pressure to do so, and the team appears to be pulling apart. Are there any lessons to be learned here? Let's start with you, Rick. What do you know about this situation?
Well, it's another situation where we live in this microwave society, and unfortunately, a lot of the schools buy into it. It's not easy developing a national level high school team overnight. And what they tried to do was basically, and I think Coach Grube hit it on the nail on the head when he said, a lot of these teams at the private school level are really acting almost like a travel club team as far as recruiting a lot of these players in. When you recruit that many number of players in with high profiles, you don't develop that chemistry. You got to develop culture. And too many times you're dealing with egos and these unrealistic expectations by the parents. It was almost from the beginning a recipe for disaster.
Jason, what do you think?
Well, I've taught some world history and I teach history now. Rome wasn't built in a day. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's anything that's going to last it's got to have the culture piece. And I think that we've got so many people that have to have, like you said, microwave success. It's just parents too. I mean, the parents, want the success right away. We talk about in our program, just get better, a little bit better at a couple things. I get kids all the time. I want to get better. I want to get better at this. I want to get better at this. I want to get better. I'm like, whoa, slow down. You're going to be, jack of all trades, master none. Let's master shooting. Let's master vision, IQ. Let's do each, add little pieces each year incrementally to be a pretty good product by your senior year. But so many, people don't have patience for that or the energy, I guess, to work at their craft and skill. So, I mean, it's just, this is like a wake up call, I guess. But, anytime you put something together in a hurry like that, and it just rises that fast, you got to wonder, because, at the end of the day, I'm surprised that they're not going to stay. They didn't want to play for that jersey. I mean, the coach steps down all the time at every level. The players don't leave. I mean, if they fire the Bulls coach, the players aren't going to some other team at any level. I don't think. I don't even think colleges do that. They fire their coaches, not very often in the season, but it happens. So I just think that, Alex said it a while back ago. My thing is, and I'm a parent, what are you thinking as a parent? Is this the best decision for your kid to be a student athlete? And I think it was Alex said it earlier too. Where's the idea of, hey, I can go to college for free? I mean, I didn't go to college for free. I know I had to pick student loans out. I'd have gladly, not gone to Indiana if I would have been able to play basketball or run track at a Division II school for free, because it would have been a college degree. And I would have, probably bought a nicer car after I graduated from college rather than, pay student loans off.
Yeah. Well, Alex, how much of this is the fault of the school administration, whether it be the principal, the AD? What part of this, or what percentage of this do you think belongs to the school administration?
100 plus. And here's why. After the tumultuous events that we saw in our nation's capital this week, I'd like to evoke the words of Patrick Henry, because I smell a rat. It's a big one. And here's what I mean here. I'm not going to get into the specifics and I'm sure that there are plenty of things that all of us here don't know about this situation. But I do know one thing, just to use a comparable example here. I know well enough per previous relationships and interactions that if there were a truly mitigating circumstance like a health reason or something legitimate like that, say for instance, if the one and only the esteemed Jason Grube needed to step aside for the rest of the season this year for a health reason, legitimately, or something like that, then I know Masanori Taguchi well enough to know that Coach Grube would take a leave for the remainder of the season. That's how it would be defined. Not step down a third of the way into the season and try to put up a facade like something else is going on. Years ago, and I'll just use this example, it was 25 years ago, when Richmond County made the NCHSA 4A basketball state final, and then Coach Tom Bockham had a heart attack during the season. That was the issue. That's why he was sidelined. He came back the next year, tried to coach, and had some issues during the season. He made it till the end of the season, but he knew that was going to be it. We all know if something like that was going on in this situation, that's what would have been done. A resignation a third of the way through the season, let alone in a situation where kids were brought in like this. All of a sudden, the microwave effect, as Rick said so well, that's 100% on the school. And like I said, I can't comment on things that I don't know, but here's what I would love to do, whether it be as a journalist, whether it be as an educator, an athletics administrator. I'd love to go over to that school and talk to a few teachers and say, well, what can you tell me about so-and-so's parents when you had a chance to meet with them? What do you know from times you've had in class with this student?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that have impressed you most from the time you've interacted with said student? If the only thing you want to talk about when you try to do this microwave effect when a kid's coming into your school, if the only thing you have as a conversation piece is basketball in this equation, you're in trouble. You're in a world of trouble.
Yeah, and Alex, I think, I can kind of relate a little bit. When I stepped down at Vance, the reason I did so is I realized that the AD and the principal and myself weren't on the same page. And when you see that situation as a coach, it's probably best that you do get out, because either you're going to do it on their terms or you're going to do it on your terms. And I think as a coach, you need to do things on your terms. When I got hired by a principal and the AD and myself were on the same page. Well, halfway into my tenure at Vance, my principal got promoted. Okay, and then another year or two passed, and I go through 2 or 3 different ADs. And by the time I reached my ninth year at Vance, I had a different principal, a different AD. I'd gone through 3 different principals, and 3 different ADs. No, 4 principals and 3 ADs. And I'm the one that's still there. And I think my last year we finished tied for second. Made the state playoffs. I had a great run at Vance, and they called me in, and they were like, "Coach, this is not good enough." I said, "Not good enough." State championships, three conference tournament championships, been to the tournament championship 5 years in a row, playoffs 7 years in a row. And they said, "Yeah, coach, you got to do a little better." I said, "Well, you know what? Y'all got to get another coach because I'm out." And that's why I stepped down. We weren't on the same page, and it looks like at Lake Norman Christian, the coach and administration are not on the same page. So I've seen this before. Let's get to the next question. This past week, Harding. Well, let me set the stage for you. Can you pause it a second, Langston? Let me set the stage. All right. Harding was up on Ardrey by 2 with 0.2 seconds left and had a sideline out of bounds. And then you can go ahead and now you can run it, Langston. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so what happens is you get a dead ball technical. Okay, Ardrey is going to shoot the technical, plus they get the ball. Okay, the game goes into overtime, and Ardrey wins the game. Jason, what are your thoughts here?
Wow. He just flopped. He was told to get as close as he can to him because he knew he was going to get in his head or whatever. And so he walks to him and he puts his chest on him. Physical contact is made by I believe the purple I'm assuming is Ardrey because the kid, right there. No, so there's a push there, right there. The referee should have stepped in earlier, right there before on the first push because the kid got here to him. He pushes him away a little bit where there was nothing. So he should have came and already spoke to both of them and say, "Let's have space. If you don't have space, we're going to have a problem," and warn them. But no, that's an incorrect call. You can't decide a game, on a flop, first of all. And, at every level, we're looking at replays and trying to see what happened. The referee could be looking at something else. He sees the kid go down. The guy's arm comes back, but it wasn't flagrant. It was, and it could have been stopped earlier. That's horrible.
Rick, you ever seen anything like this at your level?
I haven't. I watched it. I was actually, watching the game over and over, in that particular play. And I think Coach Group hit the nail on the head again. Basically, the AK guy was basically crowding the guy and he sort of gave him a little shove. And that's where I fault the official. At that point in time, with the game with 0.2 of a second on the clock, he should have stepped in and say, "Okay, guys, enough's enough. Let's, don't do that." And I think the second one, again, he just sort of put his arm like that. But, that was a great acting job, a great flop. But you hate to see a game determined by a call like that with 0.2 of a second. That was the thing that was disturbing to me.
Let the players decide the outcome.
Let the players decide the game.
Yeah. Alex, is that gamesmanship or sportsmanship issue?
Well, I'll talk from the gamesmanship perspective. If Mike Kraft taught his player to do that, congratulations to Mike Kraft. Because if that's what we've gotten to, then you as a coach adjust accordingly and get your player to do that. If that's going to get the call, then that's what we've gotten to, and that doesn't make it right. So that's the piece of gamesmanship. Now, the sportsmanship piece is where I have a concern here. We lost the teachable opportunity both ways. As everyone on this panel has said so eloquently, that was an opportunity for the official to foster sportsmanship both ways. Obviously, you have the Harding player who was getting a little upset because he was crowded. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, you have the Audrey Kell player who was doing what you have to do in that situation. But as everyone has said, I mean, because of course we'd all coach our player. Jam him, just jam him. We don't do that. We missed the teachable moment in education-based athletics at that point, whereas everyone said, that's when the official steps in. Relax.
Absolutely.
Right. We missed the teachable moment. Those are the things that make education-based athletics different. They should make it different. And we missed it.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen it today. I think we all have what we would term as coaches some trick plays for certain situations at the end of a game. Mm-hmm. I know I got a couple, and that scenario just kind of reminded me I need to tell Jupiter tomorrow, okay, we need to go over some last second things that can help us and make sure that our kids don't get caught up in it. But that's unique, and that, like you guys said, I hate that an official decided the outcome, because we all know you can't get off a shot with 0.2 seconds. So I don't even know why they're guarding them so tight. See, that's the first thing you got to see is why are you guarding so tight with 0.2? Because you can't get a shot off in 0.2. You know, Harding should have realized that, but you know, that's like you said, it's a learning experience. All right.
So it's a learning experience for the player from Harding. You know, you also have to use, you know, good judgment and also understand that there's 0.2 of a second left on the clock. Even though he's crowding him, all you have to do is hold your hand straight up in the air and don't even try to even push off at all. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there is some fault there as well. I mean, you know, the player should have just put his hand straight up. There's 0.2 of a second. There's nothing they can do, or just spread the ball out, the players out, and not, you know, prevent them from crowding. But, you know, at the same time, that the player from Harding should have just had his hands up, didn't do anything, because there was nothing they could do to lose the game at that point in time. You know, again, you know, you're in a situation as a coach, like you said, you got trick plays. You know, that's a trick play where you basically, you crowd the kid, you try to entice him to make that offensive foul. They did that. And of course, I think, again, we're beating a dead horse, but if you look where the official was, he was on the baseline away from the play. He called it on the reaction. I don't think he really saw it. He just saw the kid fall down. And that's where I had the problem.
Right. Okay, guys, this week we also learned that star guard Jalen Curry is going back to Vance. He was one of those outstanding freshmen that Vance had last year. He transferred over the summer, and now he's going back to Vance. How would you handle this as the coach at Vance? I mean, it's a legal transfer. How would you handle this, Jason, with player you already know? You know how talented he is, and I'm sure the kids on Vance already know how talented he is. How do you handle this with the kid that has to sit now that he's back? Jason?
Yeah, Julius Chambers High School, right? That's where he's going now?
Yeah, Julius Chambers. JCC.
Oh, man. You know, I mean, there's so many variables. I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, I'm assuming that there's enough space on the bench. You can put him there. I mean, but like I said, the variables are why are you coming back? Why did you leave? You know, there's just so many things that I would have to know before that we would even engage in that. You know, I mean, I don't know that I could tell. I don't honestly any of my kids, even a kid that doesn't play much, maybe a kid that plays 2 or 3 minutes. I don't know how I tell them you're going to play 1 minute or you're not going to play now after we've been through what we've been through, to get to this point. And again, it's we're in a weird situation. So, I don't know what I would do because there's too many variables, but to look another kid in the face and say, he's coming back and, he hasn't sacrificed. He hasn't done anything with you guys and he's just going to be put in there. If it were my kid, and again, I have kids, so I'd have a problem, with the coach that would just disregard everybody that's been there and sacrificed and wore that JCC uniform. I don't think they have them yet. I think they have another.
No, they don't have them yet.
So
they're in order though.
Huh? They're order.
They're on order.
Well, the sporting goods companies don't have much else to do. I'm surprised they don't have them. But
and not to divest, but I was talking. Do you know that the school system is making them turn in one uniform to get one uniform? Yeah. So it's like, all right, for every uniform you turn in,
we'll give you one.
We'll give you one. But what I don't understand is why not let them sell the Vance uniforms or auction them off so the athletic department can make some money.
We did a virtual auction and it was tremendously successful on our old uniforms because you have a lot of alumni there that would want their jerseys torn and there's a bunch of football jerseys and basketball.
I would buy one. I mean, I'm a original Vance coach and teacher.
Open the school.
I'll tell you
to remember it by, and the school system is making them turn them in. I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay, how would you handle this case? Would you handle it as a case-by-case basis, or would you have a hard and fast rule about adding players to the roster and their impact on the team? Rick?
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I was asking is, would you handle a situation like this where you have a kid that transfers in the middle of the season? How would you handle it, on a case-by-case basis, or would you have a hard and fast rule about, okay, you came late, so you don't get to start, or you don't get to bump somebody else's minutes? How would you handle that situation?
That's a very tough one because by nature, I'm such a forgiving person. I've always believed in giving everybody a second chance and second opportunity. That's just how I am. But, we don't know all the background information that went into it. And I'm sure Coach Frazier has all that information, and we don't know what he did and what he has done so far. We can only speculate. The one thing that I would probably speculate on if I was in that position, and I'm sure he probably did this, we just don't know, but I would go back to the team and say, we have an opportunity for Jalen Curry to come back. Let's vote on it. What's your opinion on that? And leave it up to the players to make that decision. At the same time, though, I do think and I believe this wholeheartedly, it's a very teachable moment for public schools in this instance. We've all been said that so many kids leave the public school to go to a private. Now here's a situation where a kid went from public to private, but he wants to come back to a public. I think this is a great opportunity for public schools to say, hey, you know what? The grass isn't always greener on the other side. You can stay here and we can give you the same type of exposure. We can give you the same type of platform that you can get anywhere else, especially in the Charlotte Mecklenburg area in the IMEC. The competition doesn't get any better than the IMEC conference.
Absolutely. Guys, I was in the back just watching, fascinating discussion. I love that nobody holds back. Coach Gruber, you may have created a little bulletin board material when you guys play Vance, but it's all good.
Julius Chambers.
Well, it's Vance until July 1, but great show, guys. And we got to wrap it up. We got to put Alex in the one shot as we always do, and we're gonna have Alex's 2 cents.
This 2 cents is a little different because I have to acknowledge what happened in the Capitol this past week. We could sit here all we want and wonder about who enabled what to happen, how. We could talk about that all day long. We could talk about the evolution of things that led to the horrific and ultimately tragic events that we saw in what's supposed to be the fortress of our Republican democracy on January 6th. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to acknowledge it, but I want to make a point. This whole notion of enabling has an implication for high school athletics, and it can be a positive implication, which will be a 180-degree turn from what was very negative implications of enabling that we saw and that our young people saw this past week. So how can this be positive enabling within high school athletics? We can enable our young people to have some semblance of seasons going forward. And that is whether we stay in person, whether we're in hybrid learning, or whether we're in remote learning, we can and we must enable these seasons to happen. Now, what does that mean? We're in a new normal. It's going to be different. Enabling these seasons to happen means enabling our students opportunities to follow policies, procedures, and protocols for mask wearing and other circumstantial details at all times. Therein is the power of education-based athletics. We can only do that if we enable these seasons to happen. Enabling then our students to have these seasons enables them opportunities for learning that what a season looks like this year isn't going to be fair, is going to be different, but that's how things are going to be as we go forward. Vaccine or not, however that happens, whenever everybody can get to it, we are in different times. Enabling everyone the opportunity to see how we can exist in what will be a new normal will create opportunities for lifelong learning all the way through. And enabling all of these things to happen will create a long-term learning reality by which, as we move forward, I think we all know that it's not a matter of if, but when COVID situations arise. We hope everyone remains healthy, but we know that likely something is going to happen. The fact that a season could end, or games, which we've seen postponed already because of a medically induced quarantine that has to happen. And if it happens at the wrong time, the season might end. And that's life in this new normal. We don't want it to happen. We hope everyone stays healthy. But in enabling our student athletes to have seasons for the rest of this year enables them to follow said protocols, all the while pursuing healthy endeavors with the hopes of completing a season healthy and maybe raising a trophy, but knowing it is not guaranteed. And if that happens, per everyone's uncontrollable efforts, everyone doing everything right, then that's the way it is, and that is life. It is not fair, but we will have enabled our student athletes to compete, all the while learning greater prevailing life lessons that they can carry well beyond when any ball stops bouncing. And if we enable those opportunities for the boys and girls of North Carolina, then we truly will pursue and achieve the greatest message in the NCAA tournament anthem, One Shining Moment. And when it's done, win or lose, you always did your best. May we enable the season to happen. May we enable our student athletes to compete. May we enable them to do so safely by following protocols, procedures, and practices conducive to optimal health and then achievement. And in doing all of those things, may we enable them to learn life lessons transcending time and space, such that in the end, no matter what they saw on TV this past week, that in the spirit of Maya Angelou, when it's said and done, and still we rise. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alex. I always look forward to Alex's 2 cents. In football, we give Sam Griner the last word. He doesn't take as long as you do, but he tries to have the same type of Gary's laughing.
I'm laughing because Sam doesn't have the vocabulary of it.
But I look forward to hear what Sam's going to say. I look forward to hear what you're going to say. By the way, football,
he putting pressure on Sam, isn't he?
I know. Yeah, he is.
We need to send Sam a thesaurus.
Football Talking Preps will be back in February. Gary will be back. Gary can't go anywhere. But guys, this is a great show. Appreciate everybody coming on. We'll see you next week. I'm Langston. That's Coach Groove. That's the Guru, Rick Lewis, Gary Richmond, my man, my frat brother, Alex Bass. We'll see you guys next week on Talking Preps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.